Continuing our exclusive look now into the monstrous Zodiac murders, Alexander Johnson picks up the story with the murder of Darlene Ferrin.
Geraldo, on July 4th, 1969, Darlene and her companion Mike Mageau were shot while sitting in a parked car. Police believe they were random victims of a psychopathic maniac. But now it can be told has uncovered new and critical evidence that they were in fact target hits. And that information could lead to a solution of the Zodiac killings. Retired San Francisco homicide inspector John Fortinos.
It doesn't appear to be a random killing because from the witness, the perpetrator went up to her side of the door on the driver's side and called her D, which was her nickname apparently.
And Ed Rust, who worked on Darlene's case, now believes she was a target hit.
I can almost see it as quite likely a plan, a methodical plan to cover up not only Darlene's, but it's quite likely that some of these other Zodiac killings, to my way of thinking, may have involved other motives, and they were done in such a manner as to make it appear a random killing.
Item: 90 minutes before she was shot, Darlene argued with an unidentified man outside Terry's restaurant. Item: returning home, Darlene's babysitter told her an older man had been phoning her all evening. Item: an ominous note in Darlene's handwriting was found by her phone. She had scrawled the words, hacked, stuck, testified. Item: Darlene rushed to Mike Mageau's home from where the pair was followed to the murder scene.
Darlene had to have been lured into that parking lot the way that she was found. The driver's license in her hand, the ignition of the car still going, the headlights still going. But the car had died. She was deliberate. She was the key to this whole thing. She gave him that name, Zodiac.
Mike Mageau survived Zodiac's attack and gave a description of the shooter. However, he later changed key parts of his story, left Vallejo, and has avoided public comment for the past 22 years.
I don't think he's telling the truth. I think, and I always have thought there's something that he's holding back, whether it's from a more, bigger degree of his involvement in whatever happened or just plain pure fear.
After the shooting, police received anonymous tips regarding Darlene's involvement with an occult group, but investigators disregarded the leads.
Some of the hippies in San Francisco, they used to phone me once in a while and tell me that she was involved with a witch, but they would never identify the witch, and they wouldn't identify themselves either, so I had no way of checking on it.
Our investigation shows not only that Darlene knew her killer, but that there indeed was an occult connection to her murder and to the entire Zodiac case.
Police have told me recently that our investigation has turned up some of the best new information that they've heard in years about the case. And there's also a possible connection between the Zodiac killing at Lake Berryessa and a cult group to which a convicted satanic killer by the name of Stanley Dean Baker belonged.
At Lake Berryessa, Zodiac, dressed in an Aleister Crowley-type ritual costume, told his victims that he was an escaped convict from tiny Deer Lodge, Montana, where in fact there is a state prison. Baker was convicted of a satanic killing not far from Deer Lodge, in which he cut out the victim's heart and ate it. According to San Francisco police, Baker also committed a grisly ritual murder in that city in April of 1970. The victim, Robert Salem, was a prominent lamp designer.
There was numerous stab wounds around the body and torso, and then on the wall, in blood, somebody had written, "Satan saves," and it appeared to be a Zodiac sign also.
Baker was released after serving less than 15 years for the Montana murder. He was never indicted for the San Francisco killing, even though police say his bloody fingerprints were found at the scene.
At the time, Mr. Baker was doing 25 to life, so the district attorney felt that at that point, there was no reason to bring him down to San Francisco and try him for this murder.
Baker's cult, as well as several others, were active in the Bay Area at the time of the Zodiac.
There's a strong Aleister Crowley influence in this case. I would focus on individuals or groups that were very enamored of Crowley's philosophies.
In addition to Zodiac's costume and the Crowley phrases in his letters, we have discovered a remarkable similarity between Zodiac's symbol and Crowley's rose cross symbol, which is intended to make one invisible to his enemies, and sometimes also calls for blood sacrifices. So what have we learned from the Now investigation? Well, one, Darlene Ferrin, rather than being a random victim, knew her killer. Two, there was a motive for her murder, which involved drugs, the occult, or both. And three, the key to the entire Zodiac puzzle lies in the events of her life and death.
I would say 4. Here you have a cannibal killer, Stanley Dean Baker, receiving parole. I mean, can you believe that they have paroled this monster and that he's back out on the streets? In a moment, we'll take the results of our investigation and try to arrive at a solution to this decades-old mystery. This 21-year-old magazine asked the question, has the Zodiac killer trapped himself? Well, we'll find out in a moment.
Story behind the story. Now it can be told.
Joining me now is Alexander Johnson and our crime reporter, Maury Terry. Alexander, was the cannibal killer, the Stanley Dean Baker, ever questioned as a suspect in the Zodiac case?
Not at all, not that we know of, no.
Do we know where this monster is?
We think he's in Minnesota.
Just, living a quiet life?
Quiet life.
Okay, maybe he's your milkman. Do we have real suspects, Maury? Can we tell the folks at home that we have some people identified? Is Stanley Dean Baker, for example, a suspect?
I think people within Stanley Dean Baker's satanic cult group could legitimately be considered suspects. Also, we have identified 3 other people that I could safely call possible suspects at this time. People Darlene Ferrin knew closely in Vallejo.
She was hanging around with the cops. She was found dead. She had her license out. The headlights were on. Does that indicate to you that possibly cops were involved in this thing?
I think that's an interesting question, and I think the answer to that is quite possibly yes. She was dating cops. She was seeing cops. Zodiac used some police techniques in his attacks, and there was cop jargon in some of the Zodiac letters. So quite possibly, yes.
Are you going to turn this information over to the local authorities?
We intend to and have been talking to them behind the scenes anyway to this point.
Okay, I promise you folks that we are going to stay on top of this. You know, this magazine, this 20-year-old magazine, says in here, that this guy is jeering at police after each slaughter. It's too late for his victims, but if the authorities take a look at some of this evidence and refocus their efforts, perhaps society will have the last laugh. That's it for now. I'm Geraldo Rivera.